The governors of Indiana and Arkansas do an about-face. Their religious freedom laws now have some exceptions. So here's what happened, folks. As you recall, the state of Indiana passed legislation granting religious freedom, religious liberty for businesses as well as individuals to refuse service with people they don't agree with religiously. So, for example, a florist, a pizza shop could refuse to do business catering a gay wedding. This created a huge uproar, and amendments were made in the law. Why did this happen? What's really going on here? Because it happened in Indiana first. Legislation was working its way through Arkansas that would have accomplished the same thing. The governor was already on record as saying he would sign it, and at the last minute he did an about-face. In part because Walmart and major corporations around the country put pressure on him saying, do not sign this as is. Here's what really happened, in my opinion, folks. These Republican governors were listening to their interest groups. Their interest groups really wanted this. The conservative base of the Republican Party really wanted this legislation as it was originally written. But once it got out and got so much media attention, the pollsters went to work, and what the pollsters found was that this is absolute death for Republican politicians in general elections. What the polls showed is that basically any voter under 30, if they hear about this, they think of the politician who voted for it as a complete archaic relic, and they would never vote for that candidate. Additionally, it basically destroyed these Republican governors with true independents, with moderates, and with conservative Democrats who otherwise might vote for them. Now, it is true that this provision, as originally written, was popular not just with the conservative base of the Republican Party, but a majority of the Republican Party. But for those with higher aspirations, Mike Pence would like to be president of the United States one day, presumably, it is an absolute deal killer. So the politicians put their finger in the wind and figured out this is just not a winner. This has got to change. And they did change. I'll leave it to others to judge the legal aspects of this, the moral aspects of this. I'm looking at it through the lens of crisis communications, and I think the Republicans did something very, very smart. If they had dug in their heels and made this the issue, it would have completely destroyed the brand of the Republican Party among young people, among moderates, among independents, and would have made life very easy for not only the Democratic nominee in 2016, but a lot of Democratic candidates in races around the country. Because they shifted the issue off pretty quickly, I don't think it's going to have lasting impact. But this is one of the cases where the so-called liberal media actually did march in lockstep in a liberal fashion. You saw all the late-night talk show hosts and certainly most of the mainstream news anchors positioning this as if the Republicans were doing exactly the same thing as what conservative racists did 50 years ago in the South, using laws, states' rights arguments to help bigots use their bigotry 50 years ago against blacks, today against gays. That was the narrative, and it was just destroying Republicans across the country, certainly in these two states. But as I said, they've changed it, they've amended it, they've neutralized the issue, and therefore I think it's not going to hurt them in 2016.